natural and perfectly rational occurrence. Traffic flowed between earth and the dwelling place of the gods in the sky. In his Theogony, the poet Hesiod sang of the births of gods in a genealogy often crossed with that of humans. He told of mortals who became demons or deific spirits, of the half-gods born of mixed parentage, of the man-gods or heroes venerated for their deeds. The theorist Euhemerus claimed he found on a desert island a golden pillar inscribed with the birth and death dates of the immortal Olympians. According to his hypothesis, all gods were originally men who had once lived on Earth, yet their roots did not impinge upon their cosmic authority, nor make them any less divine. The ranks of the gods swelled with warriors and thinkers, from the Spartan general Lysander to the materialist philosopher Epicurus, deified after his death. In his parallel lives, the biographer Plutarch recorded that someone among the older established gods was evidently displeased by the newcomer Demetrius. A whirlwind tore apart Demetrius's robes, severe frost disrupted his procession, and tendrils of hemlock, unusual in the region, sprouted up around the man's altars, menacingly encircling them. In ancient Rome, the borders between heaven and earth fell under Senate control, as deification by official decree became a way to legitimize political power. Building upon Greek traditions of apotheosis, the Romans added a new preoccupation with protocol, the rites and rituals that could effect a divine status change. For his conquests, Julius Caesar was divinized, while still alive, by a series of Senate measures that bestowed upon him rights as a living god, including a state temple and license to wear Jupiter's purple cloak. Yet, if it seemed like a gift of absolute power, it was also a way of checking it, as Caesar knew. One could constrain a powerful man by turning him into a god. In divinizing Julius, the Senate also laid down what the virtues and characteristics of a god should be. In their speeches, senators downplayed domination and exalted magnanimity and mercy as the divine qualities that defined Caesar's godhood. As a new deity, Julius would have to live up to his god self, to pardon his political enemies and respect the republican institutions of Rome. On the Capitoline Hill, the Senate installed an idol of Julius with the globe at his feet, but he erased from the inscription the term demigod, the statesman Cassius Dio related. Caesar sensed that state-sanctioned godhood could be at once a blessing and a curse. When, not long after his deification, Julius was stabbed to death 23 times, Octavian rose to power as Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, yet he and subsequent emperors would demur from being turned into living gods. Divinity had become ominously tinged with death, whether through the threat of provoking human jealousy or a connection more existential. Augustus blocked the construction of a sacred Augusteum, Claudius forbade sacrificial rituals to himself, and Tiberius eschewed any portraits unless they were placed far away from those of the gods. Vespasian resisted claims of his divinity, though even the animal kingdom seemed to acknowledge it. It was said that an ox once broke free from its yoke, charged into the emperor's dining room, and prostrated itself at his feet. After an emperor's demise, his successor would lead the state ritual to turn the deceased into a deity. As his wax effigy burned on a funeral pyre, an eagle was released from the flames, a winged transport to the heavens. The fact of death in no way compromised the politician's claim to immortality. Death was simply a shedding of the body, like a snake sheds its skin. As a tool of statecraft, apotheosis consolidated political dynasties, and it was also an expression of love and devastation, often for those who perished in unexpected, tragic ways. The Emperor Hadrian deified both his wife and mother-in-law, but the highest heavens were reserved for Antinous, his young lover, who drowned in the Nile under clouded circumstances. When Julia Drusilla was stricken by a virus at 22, she was divinized by her maximalist brother Caligula as Panthea, or all the gods. In February of 45 BCE, when Cicero's daughter Tullia died a month after giving birth, the bereaved statesman became determined to turn her into a god, and set his keen intellect to the task of how best to achieve apotheosis. To raise public awareness of the new deity, Cicero decided to build her a shrine and had an architect draw up plans. Yet the senator became fixated on the question of what location would be optimal, indoors or outside, and worried about how the land in the future could change ownership. He fretted over how to best introduce Tullia to Rome, to win the approval of both the immortal gods and mortal public opinion. "Please forgive me, whatever you think of my project," Cicero wrote in a letter to a friend, and wondered aloud if his strange endeavor would make him feel even worse. But to the statesman, supernatural in his grief, the urge was irrepressible. Deification was a kind of consolation. The century that reset time began with a man...